We're discussing the Mishnah that says that you have to dip twice, the maror twice. You're dipping the Mishnah which said you dip twice. So Reish Lakish says on this, Amar Reish Lakish, also maris mitzvah shichos kavana, that our Mishnah teaches us. This tells us that mitzvahs need kavana. That all mitzvahs, when they're being performed, they need to be done with intent. That is the statement of Reish Lakish. What's its proof? That since when you ate the vegetable, it was not the time of the obligation of the maror that you ate it, and you ate it with only a bori priyadama, and not making a bracha of al achilas maror, of maror, v'dilma lo echavin l'maror, and perhaps, which Tosfos explains, you certainly will not have in mind the maror. So you ate a vegetable, but you did not have in mind the maror. So that's why you need to dip again a second time later for the sake of maror. So that is why you don't have in mind maror when you're eating the vegetable the first time by the time of karpas. But it points out Reish Lakish, but if you want this thing to say that mitzvahs do not need kavana, why do you need to dip twice? You already dipped once. You already dipped one time, and if one time automatically should count for the maror also, since mitzvahs don't need kavana. So that is Reish Lakish's proof. Reish Lakish is proving from the fact that you're dipping twice in our Mishnah, it must be that mitzvahs need kavana. Challenges the Reish Lakish. Mimai, how do we know this, that mitzvahs don't need kavana? Dilma, perhaps olam mitzvah ain't trichos kavana. Maybe I'll tell you that mitzvahs do not need kavana. And you asked, or you said, why do we dip twice? And the conclusion of Reish Lakish was, in order to tell me that mitzvahs need kavana, I'll tell you a different reason. In order so that there'll be a distinguishing action to get the kids to ask for the children. That's why you're dipping twice, not for the sake of maror. Really, points out the Rashbam, you fulfill the mitzvah of maror, the bitter herbs, the first time you ate it, because mitzvahs do not need kavana, but you're actually dipping a second time in order so that the children will ask. So that is why you dip twice. And if you would say to ask on me, the challenge of Reish Lakish, if so, let it say a case of other vegetables. Meaning what? If you want to teach me that you're trying to dip in order to get the kids to ask, if you want to tell me the second dipping is in order to get the kids to ask, why didn't we have the Mishnah discuss a case of other vegetables, not the vegetable that's used for the maror? That should not be the first vegetable used. Let it be a regular vegetable, and that way the second vegetable that I eat is going to be the fulfillment of the maror, and that way it will not be out of order that the mitzvah of maror is being fulfilled before its proper time. So if you want to tell me, if so, the mitzvahs do not need kavana, you're going to ask, let it say a case of other vegetables, and then you will not be fulfilling the mitzvah of maror out of order. So the Gemara, the challenger Reish Lakish, is responding to the theoretical question that would be asked on him. So he's explaining, if I would have taught you only a case of other vegetables, hava mina, I would have thought, if that's the way the Mishnah would have written, not the same vegetable, rather potato, let's say, for the first karpas, and then maror later, havamina, I would think, that only in a place where you have other vegetables, at the beginning of the Seder for karpas, that's where you need to dip twice. And afterwards, you dip again for the maror. So the first time will be for the children to ask, and the second time will be for the maror. But if you only have a chazaras, if you only have lettuce alone, you would not need to dip a second time, because you already mitzvahs do not need kavana, and you already fulfilled the mitzvah of maror. If you would dip the first time to get the kids to ask, by the time of the karpas, that vegetable will automatically fulfill the mitzvah of maror. in which case you'd be fulfilling the mitzvah of maror out of order. So I would have said you do not need to dip twice. Rather what? Don't dip the first time by the time of the karpas, because if you dip by the karpas, it's going to come out that you're fulfilling the mitzvahs out of order. Rather, only in that case, dip once. Dip only by the maror time. Do not dip that vegetable at the beginning, or you're going to fulfill the mitzvah of maror out of order. In other words, you would not have a dipping for the children to ask. So I would have thought you would not have a second dipping because you'd be fulfilling the mitzvah of maror out of order. Kamash Malan, our Mishnah comes to teach us that even if you're eating lettuce for the karpas, you still need to dip twice. Why? In order so that there will be a distinguishing factor for the kids to ask. Meaning what? The conclusion of the Gemara is that even though it's going to, if you say mitzvahs do not need kavana, it's going to come out that the mitzvah of maror is being fulfilled not in its right time. And I would think maybe you should only dip once, therefore, and don't do the dipping for the children to ask. Comes the Gemara to teach me, the Mishnah to teach me that no, do the dipping for the children to ask, even though it's going to result in you fulfilling the mitzvah of maror out of place. And that is the conclusion of the Gemara. We'll see later that mitzvahs do not need kavana, and the challenger of Reish Lakish was successful, seemingly in explaining that you don't necessarily have a proof that mitzvahs need kavana, because I can explain to you a different reason, a different conclusion from the Mishnah.